Hey guys, it's Tom. We're here talking about Love and Mercy, which is going to come out on Blu-ray this Tuesday, September 15th, 2015. And I'm here with my buddy Garrett. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm fantastic.
And I'm here with my buddy Avery. So we're going to talk about the movie that's coming out on Blu-ray this Tuesday. And just as a little disclaimer, we've all seen the film only once, I believe. We saw it when it came out. And sorry, the door's opening, so that won't get in the way. But anyway, Love and Mercy. What is it about? It's a biopic of Brian Wilson, but not so much a biopic in the traditional sense. It kind of just focuses on two main parts of his life. So we're gonna kind of talk about the film and a little bit about it. So Avery, let's start with you. What were your initial impressions of Love and Mercy?
It's a good movie. It's a real good movie. There you go. There's your review.
All right.
Good movie. 2 thumbs up.
Garrett, what about you?
I really liked it. From the perspective of someone who's not a huge Beach Boys fan, even, I thought it was really well made, really well acted, all around, just a really good movie. I'm glad you invited me to come watch it.
And we're glad you came too. As the flip side of the coin, as me being a big Beach Boys fan, I was really pleased with it. I did have some issues, which we'll kind of get into a little bit, but overall, I really liked the film, and so let's kind of get into taking little things at a time. So this movie really focuses on 2 parts of Brian Wilson's life, as it seems. It talks about him making Pet Sounds the album, and it focuses on him meeting his second wife, Melinda. And let's just run down some of the cast in this movie. We have actor Paul Dano. Is it Dano or Dano? Do you know?
I believe it's Dano. I don't know.
We have Paul Dano as the Brian Wilson from 1965-66, which is really uncanny. As a Beach Boys fan, I was just like that. He really did look a lot like a very young Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
Also in this movie, you have John Cusack, who plays Brian Wilson in the, I think it was like late 70s or 80s or maybe even 90s when he met his wife, Melinda, who's played by Elizabeth Banks. And
Yes.
we have Brian Wilson's psychiatrist, who's played Eugene Levy, who's played by Paul Giamatti. So pretty good cast, and I was really happy with how they delivered. So let's first talk about the first half of Brian's life, which is focused on Paul Dano. We see Paul Dano as Brian Wilson and a whole bunch of people playing the Beach Boy members, which for those who don't know, they are Carl and Dennis Wilson, who are his brothers, Mike Love, who's his cousin, and Al Jardine, who is a friend. And then later in the film, this is one of the things that I really liked as a Beach Boy fan. They brought in Bruce Johnston, who was Brian's replacement for when they went on tour. And to see him come in and kind of give the whole, hey, thanks for coming on the tour, to me, that was just kind of, as a Beach Boy fan, I'm like, thank you. You got that part of the history right. Right, excuse me. So Garrett, what did you think of Paul Dano's performance?
It's really, truly, I hadn't really thought of Paul Dano much as an actor, because I've seen There Will Be Blood, and he did a really good job in that. Of course, his character is really creepy in that, though. One of them anyway. And but this really put him on the radar for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is really, really good, especially at the very beginning, the opening of the movie, which is kind of a sort of candid shot of Brian in the studio, talking about how the beginning of his creative process, how music kind of just speaks to him. I thought that was really cool, and it was really overall very well acted and everything. Yeah, it was interesting to see all this stuff, because I've heard several songs from Pet Sounds and the Beach Boys, and to see how they came together, and to see a side of the man who made this music was really cool.
And not just him as a man, but sort of a troubled genius as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Avery, any thoughts on Paul Dano playing young Brian Wilson?
He's good, but I think he's kind of overshadowed by the other Brian.
You really think so?
Yeah, the other Brian, even though he doesn't look as much like the real Brian Wilson, I think gives an incredible performance. Although this guy looks a lot like Paul Dano looks a lot like Brian in the movie.
He does. There were, it's one of those things where it's like, that's gonna be Brian. Oh no, that's an actor playing him. Well, then let's move on to the other Brian, played by John Cusack. Now, I've said this before, Garrett. I know I brought this up to you. John Cusack has never really been one of my all-time favorite actors. He's always been a generic guy, not very, dramatic, or doesn't show a huge range. Kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of stale. But to me, this worked because he's playing a character at this time who's kind of stale, doesn't really know where he's going in life. And when he meets Melinda, played by Elizabeth Banks, it's kind of like his whole world turned around. And I really enjoyed seeing John Cusack as the older Brian Wilson, even though there were times when he didn't bring a lot to it, but he didn't have to, in my opinion. What do you think about John Cusack as older Brian?
Well, I'm not familiar with any of John Cusack's material, actually, so...
He's a villain a lot, I think.
He's what?
Like mob boss types?
John Cusack?
Yeah.
From what I've seen, no. He kind of plays more of an asshole than, say, a villain.
So yeah. I get the impression from what I maybe just mixed up with an actor that he plays a lot of mob-type characters. He
is kind of a typecast actor. He kind of plays the same kind of part over and over again, which is why I said I was impressed with what he did with this role. But go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I thought definitely he also did a great job for playing someone who was being very, I don't know, for someone who was being so manipulated the whole time by his trusted friend, and also just kind of see him trying to break out of that with Melinda's help, and sometimes even independently. I thought when he wanted to, he was very charming. He could be, totally sympathetic. That's for sure. He played it very humbly too. Like, he didn't want to come right out and say, "I'm Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys," because that'll open doors for me. I thought he did a great job, like Dano did too. I could definitely tell that the two of them were playing the same man.
Right, and that's one thing that I really like. This is one of the first biopics that I can think of where you have the same person that's being portrayed, played by different actors. Like, I'm not going to count I'm Not There, because the Bob Dylan movie, because those are people who are playing things that Dylan just happened to do, but without playing Bob Dylan as a person. So that's another thing that I found really enjoyable about this movie, the same character portrayed by two different actors. Avery, any other additional thoughts on John Cusack?
He does socially... I really like his performance because he does socially awkward really genuinely. It doesn't feel like a put on. It's not even like, well, even if I like Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump feels a bit like a put on. It feels like Tom Hanks doing a role. He makes social awkward feel really genuine, and mental illness. There's just this genuine quality to his performance. It doesn't feel like it's anything typical or anything showman-y.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, he's not really.
There's lots of nice little subtleties in his performance.
Right.
And mannerisms.
And then we kind of mentioned this, but Paul Giamatti plays Brian's therapist, Eugene Landy. Now, Paul Giamatti, I will admit, is someone that I've always liked. I mean, he's one of those actors I've wondered why he never really took a leading role. He's always played a supporting character. But Paul Giamatti in this role was really great. And I read something on the IMDb trivia, which I thought was interesting, that Brian Wilson, while watching this, was actually terrified of Paul Giamatti's performance because he felt he brought a lot out of Eugene Landy that Brian didn't want to see anymore. So to see him, scare Brian and the audience, to me, is kind of like one of the best compliments that you can get. And Paul Giamatti, man, I would say great job also. Garrett, what do you think?
Absolutely. Giamatti is an Academy Award winning, I'm pretty sure he won.
He won that for Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, just nominee. That much I know. He's just a Academy Award nominee.
Okay. Still. for Amazing. No, yeah, he is a fantastic actor, and he has you mentioned him. He rarely plays leading role characters, but he has before. That he played. It was John Adams, the one based on, I think it's David McCullough. Yeah, David McCullough
He plays
wrote this
Santa
book.
Claus and Fred Claus.
Does he?
Yeah, where Vince Vaughn becomes Santa. He
Well-
plays the original, the Tim, what's the Buzz Lightyear guy?
Tim Allen.
He plays like Tim Allen Santa.
Well, I don't think we're gonna count that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, Paul Giamatti has played lead characters like John Adams, and I saw a scene from that. He was awesome in that too. But yeah, you're absolutely right when you say that Giamatti as Eugene Landy is absolutely terrifying, in a also kind of charming way, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, not knowing a lot about this period and not knowing that he was a bad person. You're not genuinely sure where he's at, if he's actually has good intentions or not.
And especially since a lot of the things he makes where he says this is right for Brian, you do kind of believe that he is the one who's right. Of course, later you find out he's all wrong. But
Yeah.
the fact where he always does this thing of this is best for Brian if you don't talk to him. If you don't know the history, you would think, well, he was probably right.
You're not sure. Well, he's not. He's right. You're not sure that you don't realize his intentions are quite as I don't want to say evil, as ill-intended as that you find out there later in the film.
Yeah, when you watch the first few scenes with Landy in them, he seems genuinely concerned for Brian's well-being, for his emotional state, which apparently, according to him, who is apparently an expert, that Brian needs this kind of guidance and help in his life, constant sort of supervision. But then as time goes on and you see his mask slip more and more often, there'll be times where he's just unjustifiably cruel to Brian, or just says things that seem like you're not doing this for his benefit as much as your own, and that's wrong, sort of thing.
Right, especially since they tie a lot of things earlier in Paul's life, in Brian's life. Like I remember, there's a scene in the right when Paul Dano Brian is about to make Smile, and they sit down at this big dinner table, and people are clanking forks and knives together, and Brian Wilson's hearing all these things, and he just stands up and goes, "Stop! Please just stop." And then later on, is like there's that scene where John Cusack, Brian is at like a barbecue or something, and Eugene Landy does the whole thing of, "No, you're not hungry. You only think you're hungry."
That's the hamburger scene.
So all those big extreme moments, you realize they were really a part of this man's life, and Eugene Landy was supposed to be the guy that you thought would fix all that. But as you said, later as his mask slipped down, I like that analogy, by the way, and you realize that he really isn't all what he says. And when you realize later that Melinda really is the one who can open up, to make Brian open up and feel alive again, at that point Eugene Landy becomes this real asshole, which again was great to Paul Giamatti. I liked when he can play those kind of people, and that's why I was very happy with his portrayal of that character.
Yeah.
Especially when, as a Beach Boy fan, for me, when I read all these things and you find out that Eugene Landy wanted co-writing credit for songs he didn't write because he felt like he was just part of Brian Wilson's life. To me, to see that play out as he really was not that great in Brian's life. He was fine for a while, but as you said, it got worse. I was really happy to see that portrayed on screen.
No, you can tell in the scene where he's getting him to make the album that he's using him. When he's yelling at him and he's telling him to make the album.
Right, because there's that scene where he and Melinda are in the studio, and he comes in and kind of does the whole thing of, "You can't be with her, man.
No,
it gets in the way of your
I'm not
art."
even talking about that scene. There's a scene where Melinda's talking to the maid, and she can see into the next room, and you can see like Brian's on a keyboard, and he can't stay up, and like Paul Giamatti's yelling at him and hitting him. It's the scene where they reveal that all the drugs he's on.
That's right. I remember that.
I do want to say the first half of this film, not the first half. There's no first and second half. They switch.
They switch a lot.
And actually, it is not nearly as jarring as it seems like it would be from the trailers. But that half, the what's his name?
The John Cusack half?
No, the other half.
Oh, Paul
Dano
half.
Feels not like a typical biopic, whereas the other half feels not like a biopic at all.
It feels like more like a love story than a
love story, or just a drama. There are lots of nice, they're not simple scenes. Like there's a scene where they both have a double date, which might be the best scene in the movie, and that's the scene where Brian says, "My brother," just casually says, "My brother died."
Yeah, and that also
and it's there's like there's the thing that's the one. No, that's not the one take. There's what they do is you have them look at the reflections. They unfocus the person in shot and focus their reflection in the mirror behind them sitting in the seat.
That was absolutely.
There's lots of really nice shots in this film.
what were we saying, Garrett? Sorry, I missed that.
I'm just saying that the scene in the restaurant Avery was talking about, where you have to pay attention to the mirror in the background of the frame, it's absolutely brilliant. And it.
Well, I mean, they literally do the focus thing. So you're not looking. They literally make sure you're not looking at the person's face because they unfocus it or whatever the term is, and they focus and clear up the mirror face, so your eyes naturally go towards the mirror. If you try looking at the mirror face, it kind of gives you the regular the main shot, not mirror face. It kind of gives you almost a headache.
And also that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was agreeing.
There's lots of, especially in the John Cusack half. There's lots of really nice shots.
Well, yeah, I mean,
there are some in the first. Like there's the one of the smile sessions where it's just a circle continuous take is really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful cinematography, like because in the first half, Paul Dano Brian, he lives in California, so there's pools and there's beaches, and then John Cusack Brian, he has a beach house, and it's very nice. And what I loved about it was just the way it looked was just very bright the whole time. Yes, there were a lot of troubling scenes, but that bright, I guess atmosphere that I saw kind of made me just think. As a Beach Boy fan, I know everything's going to be okay in the end. So it was kind of nice to see that all the bright colors, and made it feel like this is it all works out. I guess.
Well, I think the best thing about the really technically impressive shots is they don't feel like they're just there for artsy fartsy reasons. Like they're just trying to show off. They all feel like they're add to the film instead of subtracting or taking away. They feel like they add to the narrative. It's not just, oh, look at me now. We're gonna go over here while I do this shot where we all circle or where we look in the mirror.
Garrett, since you study film, any thoughts on the filmmaking?
I absolutely agree that all of these shots that are technically impressive definitely serve a function in the storytelling, in the subjectivity of the characters. They make you feel a certain way so that you better understand the emotional story, actual story, the plot. I mean, really, the only thing I have a problem with it technically was toward the end. I guess you could call it the climax of the film, where it was just a montage of very strange images, where you have like the two Brians looking at each other while one of them is on the bed.
The beds.
There's the scene where one's in bed looking at the other one, and all the bits of Beach Boys songs are playing over and over again.
He's hallucinating visitors, like he hallucinates his dad.
Yeah, that stuff. I was like, that was the only time I ever sat back and like, what exactly is this supposed to convey? Because it confused me. I understand that there was some sort of mental crisis happening. There was some kind of emotional turning point. I just don't know what it was.
And I think it's supposed to convey there's a full circle nature that they're calling back to. He did this before, this incident before, and he's come full circle.
And also, I think to bring up the fact that he had demons in the '60s, but that doesn't mean that those demons went away entirely.
Okay.
I think they're trying to parallel above storylines. Is what they're trying to do with that.
I got that impression, but it just didn't quite mesh in my brain yet. If I see it again with this guideline you've given me in mind, then I could probably understand it more.
Well, there were a couple of things, like as a Beach Boy fan, that I was really happy to see, and there were some things that I would have liked to have seen more. Avery mentioned the smile scene. It really is about 30 seconds of all the orchestra members, all the band members working on the song called Cabinescence. And it only goes on for like 30 seconds, and it's just one long shot. Now, for me as a Beach Boys fan, I personally would have liked to have seen them actually, recreate the smile sessions, recreate the fire infamous incident, or recreate this or that. And they only showed about 30 seconds of that, and then kind of showed that it was a failed project, because you see Brian kind of looking down like, oh my God, this isn't going to work. But I think that was probably done intentionally, because maybe I usually like to give the benefit of the doubt. I like to think that maybe the filmmakers thought, okay, well, we're covering a lot of dark aspects on Brian's life. Let's not cover that. You know, like we'll touch on it, we'll touch on it for like 30 seconds, and then that's that.
They really don't shy away from darkness, though. Both stories are pretty dark. I like we got the other, the John Cusack story as the main story, because I feel like if we had just got the other story or focused on that one, we'd have got a lot of the typical biopic moments where he's like, and I'm picking up, you know, like the walk hard stuff. I'm picking up good vibrations, good vibe. You know, there's the sort of tropes and cliches of those type of movies where you have like the character coming up with the song,
right?
Or it's like, and God only knows. Oh, I should have read a song. You get those cliched moments,
right?
And I feel like you're saved a lot of those because that's not the focus of the movie. Even though you do get a little bit of the origins of good vibration.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like you're saved a lot of what would have been cliches this movie had if we had focused on the biopic half, because the other half doesn't feel like a biopic.
And especially since the movie, you know, it doesn't begin as a traditional biopic at the beginning. At the very beginning of the film, they quickly montage all of the early Beach Boys stuff. Like they show them, you know, taking photos on the beach and, you know, playing TV shows and this and that. And actually, there's a scene in the trailer where it shows them recreating the studio sessions for I Get Around. It shows them all around the mic. But that wasn't in the film, and I was a little disappointed. But we are supposed to get some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, so I really hope that they include that in there.
Well, the Get Around circle around the mic, it was totally in there.
Right, but I think in the trailer they showed some more of that, and I think I read somewhere that was an entire scene, but was just cut entirely. So again, as a Beach Boy fan, I would have loved to see that, but I totally get that. They wanted to get to the main Paul Dano storyline, so that's what they did instead. They kind of montaged of that all together.
Yeah, it definitely, I thought that was goodish as filmmaking, was to say, okay, our story is going to take place here, so let's show everything that happens up to this point and then get into it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
All right, well, the only, I would say, complaint I had with that was they kind of make it out that Pet Sounds is really the first time that Brian Wilson really explores, because, again, if you know your history, it all goes back to the song California Girls, which was the single right before Pet Sounds, where Brian did this huge musical embellishments, and, of course, Mike Love came in and wrote the typical Beach Boy lyrics. So as a person, I don't mind that wasn't in there, but I would have liked to have maybe heard Mike Love say something like, look, Brian, you got away with your big embellishments on California Girls. We can't do it again, or something like that. I would have liked personally to have seen some allude to that, to give Brian and Mike some more friction, so that when Pet Sounds start, as opposed to just, oh, coming in Pet Sounds, I hate it already. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more build-up between that. Maybe mention California Girls. I didn't get that, but maybe it's a deleted scene. I hope it is.
I don't mind that. I mean, I feel like that's just streamlined. I feel like that would have made the film more bloated. You would have stayed there longer. I mean, I don't mind them doing minor history changes for liberties for the sake of a good storytelling.
Although they did do that one thing where right before Brian makes Pet Sounds, like they're at a party, they're celebrating a tour or something, and Brian says, have you heard the Beatles and Rubber Soul? You know, we can't let them, you know, beat us or get ahead of us. And to me, I was kind of like, thank you, because a lot of people don't know that Rubber Soul inspired Pet Sounds.
Even that's I want to say that they mixed that up with the story.
It wasn't the
Strawberry Fields, because I think it was Strawberry Fields.
Well, no, Strawberry Fields is the reason why he quit Smile, and that wasn't in the film at all.
Okay.
I would have liked to have personally seen that myself, but a lot of
wasn't Strawberry Fields pre-Good Vibrations? Wasn't that thing that he was making Good Vibrations? He's like, oh no, they beat us.
No, he had finished Good Vibrations, was going to finish Smile, and then Strawberry Fields came out, and then kind of derailed the whole thing. Again, they don't touch on that. They kind of do that whole thing of Smile was over bloated and it didn't work, and that's why it didn't happen. I would have, as a Beatles fan, as we all are, I would have liked to have seen that myself, but I guess it was fine, just what it was.
I think it makes more sense from a storytelling perspective for them to focus more on the reason that Smile didn't work as a problem within the Beach Boys, and the Beatles thing is kind of just
and a problem
out of nowhere. And it just wouldn't flow as a story very well. It could have been, I absolutely believe that it was a factor in the real world story. But of course, it can't be the only thing, I don't think.
No, of course it wasn't. There were a ton of reasons, but that was sort of like the Kickstarter to made Brian depressed and then not finish Smile.
Oh, because it's this film isn't even about the Beach Boys. It's about Brian and his problems. I feel like they didn't want to take away from that. This isn't even really about the Beach Boys and the Beach Boys' problems. It's about Brian, because in both the storylines and how they parallel.
No, the only.
So I think that's why they did that, because they wanted to focus on Brian's problems, not anyone else's.
And especially the only Beach Boy that actually gets highlighted is Mike Love. He's constantly butting heads with Brian, and
he's kind of there because you need an antagonist for that half.
Yeah.
Dad's not in much. And his dad would be the other antagonist from that period, and then you get the modern period. You got Paul Giamatti as the antagonistic figure.
Yeah, and then I guess you could say that the other Beach Boy that was prominently played in the '60s sections was which brother?
Would have been Dennis or Carl.
Because I want to say the same brother who they have helped rescue him in the end.
Well,
because what's her name? Elizabeth Banks calls one of his brothers to help take care of the legal stuff.
That was Carl, because when Brian says my brother died, he was talking about Dennis.
Yeah,
okay.
No, Carl is the good brother in the past.
Well, the one that Brian has some conversations with in the '60s. I think that was Carl.
I think they want you to just remember him mentally, because I think they don't want to come out of the blue when Elizabeth Banks says, like, I called your brother Carl.
That's a good. That's a good point.
I feel like the main reason he's the good brother is so you remember him for later.
Yeah,
that's a good point, especially. Like I said, a lot of the other Beach Boys aren't highlighted. They're kind of just there. And again, like as I mentioned, there's a lot of like little tidbits. Like as a diehard fan, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe they actually put that in there. For instance, there's a bit where they're hearing back the song Here Today from Pet Sounds, and Mike Love hears some talking in it, and he says, Brian, there's people talking on the tape. And Brian's like, yeah, so? And Mike's like, you're just going to leave that in there? And Brian says, yeah. And of course, if you listen, that is on the album. So as a little fan, I was just like, I was doing the whole, yes.
I will say one thing. I feel like it might have worked better if they had Mike Love be the brother they call instead, because you get to know him more, and even though he's antagonistic, you do think he cares about him. And you do kind of want to see their relationship improve.
Well, they do. Go ahead.
Absolutely, but I do think, again, that while that may have worked from a storytelling perspective, I think for that they might have been going more historically accurate by calling Carl Wilson, because they're brothers and not cousins. There's just a little too much distance in a cousin relationship.
I understand that. And it probably was Carl in real life that helped sort it out.
I think it was. But also they do kind of show you toward the end of Paul Dano's storyline that Brian and Mike have made amends, because Mike comes in and says, Brian, you blew it. Pet Sounds isn't a bestseller. And Brian's kind of depressed. And so they kind of say, okay, well, maybe we can combine these things. And that's how they made Good Vibrations. Brian was able to go over all out with the instruments, and Mike Love was able to say, okay, well, let's keep it in, Beach Boy formula. So he wrote the lyrics to Good Vibrations, and that sort of makes you know that at the end of that storyline, Brian and Mike become closer. I wouldn't say incredibly close, but they were able to at least work with each other.
That almost seems like it's there because they want to make sure they don't paint him as too much of a villain. Because outside of that, you only really see him in antagonistic roles.
And of course, Mike Love wasn't
since he's a real person and not a bad person. I think they want to make sure they didn't paint him as a villain.
And also, I was a little concerned with that as a fan because, yes, Mike Love didn't love Pet Sounds when he first heard what Brian had prepared for them, but he named the freaking album. Mike Love eventually grew to like it. And so I think the film kind of made it as, he's very antagonistic, which in real life was his father. But in terms of what you said, Garrett, in terms of story or historical accuracy, I think they went more with the storyline for how to portray Mike Love's character. And I guess I don't have a problem with it, but I guess I could just point and say, well, that wasn't exactly how it happened, but I'll let it go, I guess, as Mike Love, he's known as the Beach Boy you love to hate, but occasionally he does that thing where you love to love him. So I guess that's the best way to put it.
There you go.
So final thoughts about this movie. I will say that the DVD and Blu-ray, which comes out on Tuesday, has some special features. It has something called California Story, creating the look of Love and Mercy. It has a feature called A-Side and B-Side, portraying the life of Brian Wilson. So I'll probably give an insight about how the two created that character. Because another thing I read on the IMDb trivia was that while making the film, Paul Dano and John Cusack never actually met in order to make it seem like they're portraying, a character who, so that if they met, they wouldn't, I guess, exchange information or something like that. I don't know. It makes sense in my head.
Yeah.
And then also there going to be some deleted scenes, so I'm hoping for an I Get Around segment. And there'll also be some audio commentary. So look for that when it comes out on Tuesday. So it all comes down to this question: are we going to buy the DVD and Blu-ray when it comes out? Garrett, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, the Beach Boys have been kind of in the background as far as my musical taste, but this movie has definitely at least made me appreciate at least one of them as a person. And then to just look at some of the things that happened in the studio that I thought were really cool. Yeah, I absolutely loved this movie, and I'd love to see it again.
Avery, what about you? You think you'd buy it?
I don't really buy Blu-rays anymore, but if I did, I probably would. But I probably won't put that out.
I would probably buy this movie. I mean, this is one of those movies where the Blu-ray and DVD are available separate. There's no combo pack, and I know I've complained about that. I love the combo pack. So if the DVD has, because I buy the stuff for the special features because I want to see all that stuff. So if the DVD has the same 4 bonus features as the Blu-ray, meaning there are no Blu-ray exclusive special features, then I'll probably buy it. And also it's just come to Dollar Theater where we live, so we'll probably go see it again. And also, just one last thing, because I'm kind of curious. Do you think this film is big enough and powerful enough to garner Academy Award nominations? Garrett, we'll start with you.
Probably not a lot. I think you might see 1 or 2. Yeah, but definitely not anything major. This isn't going to win a Best Picture award. No,
I don't think so. And also, it's one that didn't have like a super wide release, so that also could probably hurt a little bit. But I can imagine it getting a Best Cinematography nomination or something like that.
Yeah, and it might win awards in other award shows as well.
But if Paul Dano or Paul Giamatti or even if John Cusack get nominated, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That's a stretch, I think, but it'd be cool to see.
Right. Avery, any thoughts about if this film might get some Academy Award nominations?
I think it deserves to, but I don't think it will at all. I feel like I would have heard more hype about it. I don't even remember seeing reviews about the film when it came out.
Well, a lot of
I didn't hear a lot of talk about it. I feel like I'd have heard more talk from reviewers if it was going to get awards.
A lot of reviews that I saw were from people who review movies for like newspapers or magazines. A lot of the YouTube movie guys who just do it for fun and have a lot of subscribers, they didn't go see it.
I mean, I didn't even hear from a normal professional reviewers. Like I like to watch shows like What the Flick, and I don't remember if they reviewed it at all. I don't think I just didn't hear a lot of hype about it at all.
Yeah,
I feel like I'd have heard some more hype if it was going to get any awards at all.
Yeah, I remember.
I'd be surprised if it gets even one.
I remember looking on YouTube.
Exactly.
I remember looking on YouTube for Love and Mercy reviews, and there weren't a lot. So I feel like this could hurt it in regards to nominations because the Academy usually has to be aware of these movies.
Summer isn't really the season. It sounds dumb, but this is things that they consider. This isn't really the season of Oscar movies.
Summer's more
Academy movies.
Summer's more the blockbuster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like they're not even going to consider it.
Well, like I said, if it gets nominations, I'll be very happy about it. All right, so I believe that's all I have to say about Love and Mercy. I could probably go on and on, but let's wrap this up.
I will say this: I went into this film with really low expectations because I thought the trailer looked awful.
Really?
I didn't thought it looked like it was pretentious and artsy fartsy, and I thought it looked kind of cliched. The trailer doesn't do it justice. I think it's probably the reason I really like it is because I went in with such low expectations. So when I saw it, I had really high values. Wrong, mixing up all my words, but you know what I mean. Since I had such a low, I really liked it when it came out.
I will also say, kind of as a fun note as we're wrapping up, if you go see the movie, don't leave before it wraps up because Avery was the only 3 of us who stayed till the end credits, and there's a little something at the end of the end credits, right?
Yeah, it's. Do you want me to say what it is?
Sure, go ahead.
It's just some old studio recordings. Not studio recordings. Studio talk. Them talking in the studio during Good Vibrations. You hear them talking about the song, and you hear a little bit of the piano or whatever.
I can't believe I left. I would have loved to have heard that.
It's nice. I mean, this is the Marvel age. You got to sit through every movie.
Very true. Very true.
You got to sit through Age of Adeline.
Right.
See that crossover with Age of Ultron.
Anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, I will say that was another thing I forgot to mention. The studio session, seeing Paul Dano reenact those as much as he could, because he actually had permission to listen to tapes, was really cool as a Beach Boy fan. I was just like, that's probably how it happened, and I'm glad that they showed that.
Also, if you're a big Brian Wilson fan, you should get the DVD for his live performance of Smile, because there's a fantastic documentary.
Yes,
it's worth watching. You can throw away as much as I love Smile, you could just throw away the Smile half and just get the documentary. The documentary is that good.
Yes, really. What Avery is referring to really quickly is that there's a DVD, 2 DVD set called Beautiful Dreamer. DVD 1 is the documentary about making Smile, and the DVD 2 is the concert film. So definitely give that a watch, because that is a very insightful
when it
documentary.
says making Smile, it means Brian Wilson's life.
And they do mention
from beginning to his breakdown, and then just a little bit of wrap up as they go into the performance.
They do mention that he did complete Smile in 2004-ish.
Yeah.
So, all right, so thank you.
But also talks about Pet Sounds, his father. It's pretty extensive.
And
it doesn't really cover this Paul Giamatti, John Cusack era in the film. That's why I was probably surprised, because I didn't know a lot of history about this. But it really extensively covers the other half, the Paul, what's his name's half of the movie.
And they do actually mention the California Girls in that documentary and how important of a song it was.
Well, documentaries, unlike movies, documentaries don't tend to take our statistic license, because they're actually trying to represent, or claiming to represent reality. So they tend to have their facts accurate.
Right. So if you have seen Love and Mercy, I would also recommend you check out Beautiful Dreamer documentary. Garrett, I'm looking at you.
Well, that sounds like a 5-star review. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's a great doc. It's probably on YouTube if you do a search for it. It's called Beautiful Dreamer.
Although that's illegal. That's bad. Don't do that, kids. And remember, that's like taking an old lady's purse.
Well, you didn't hear it from us. Anyway, so for all of us, thank you for watching. If you have seen Love and Mercy, tell us what you think of it in the comments below. And Garrett, thank you so much for coming on. And
if you actually watched, put a comment in the comment below.
Yes,
just a comment, so we know you did. You know you watched.
Let us know you exist.
Yeah. So thank you, Garrett.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks, Avery, and be sure to subscribe. Check out Garrett's channel. Check out our podcast, Triple Threat. All of these shameless plugs, and follow us all on Twitter and whatever Garrett wants to plug. Also,
I just did that.
All right, so we're all shaking our heads. So thanks, guys, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.
That's a dumb Star Wars thing, in case you didn't know. That's what Luke does at some point. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
I will. You're a good friend. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Rutia. Bye.
Bye.